All right. Going over a step by step what I showed in class last week. Hopefully, this will be some help for those of you that were looking for like a something to reference. And to start, I had given you the screenshot. You can use a different screenshot. You do not need to use this one. But anyway, once you end up having this, all I really want to see is your choices for the photos, right? So, where's my... It's out of control here. All right, here we go. So, the example that I had here was, choosing a photo or photos for the back of the postcard. And then, when it came to the social media part, it was really just about how are you going to then also add photos that would all work together. All right, so I use the example of Tremblant, but in the autumn, skiing, hiking, kayaking, different things, making sure that you stay consistent. Okay. Now, if you want to design directly in here, you can absolutely, because it would be enough to show with the size of these images that you're going to be doing, that mock-up would show how the text is working, right? It should be very clean, very minimal, very straightforward. So when you're looking at images, you want to find an image that you can put your text against that would be readable, okay? So something like this, not going to work, okay? Something like this, maybe, right? You got underneath here, maybe up in the tree line because it's pretty dark. So you kind of go through and figure out what is going to work for one, with your new brand, and two, that's going to allow a strong contrast for the text to read against, okay? Now, if you want to create the shapes in here, all you need to do is either use your marquee tool to draw and then go to edit and then go to fill, and then you'll be able to have foreground to create that rectangle. You can use the rectangle tool here to draw the rectangle that you need to put into place. All right, or you can even set up a separate file for all of your 3 images for the Instagram. All right, now to get this, you want to figure out, you need to know what the size is going to be, okay? So in here, they recommend 1080. Now yours is going to be smaller than that, but you want to set up for 1080, all right? 3 and 4, ratio of 3 to 4. So in here, you would end up having your image set up to 1080 by 1440. So this would be a separate file if you prefer to do it this way. All right. So now once you end up having that, you can come in here and you open with the Photoshop and then you drag the image in. Okay. You never want to drag the image directly into here because a lot of times it will end up losing the quality of the photo itself. So always open with, have your photo separate and then drag from there into your actual file. And now you hit Command T, and you'll end up having this bounding box here, and you can shrink it down. If you hold Option, let me make this smaller. So if you just drag and hold, you can see it keeps the proportion, right? If I hold Option, then it goes from the center. All right. So this way, you figure out where the size is going to be. Where I'm going to actually be putting this, I'm probably going to be putting text right in here. I hit return, and then I have this going that way. All right, so then I can design all 3 on a separate file and then drag them into here. Now, once you end up having this done, you can't simply now just drag from here into here because, go away, because then the cropping is not going to be shown, right? So in here, you go into then flatten and then drag. And now you can see it retains the cropping of this. Okay? So let's get rid of this. And we have this photo here. And then because I have this sitting here that's covering here, that can be used as a mask. All right? So I'm going to make a copy of this because I need to have it on the other two images as well. And then to make a copy, hold Option, and you can see my arrow gets a little white box next to it. I'm holding Shift and dragging, so that way I can keep it right in line with the other image. Alright, so I have my 3 boxes there as a placeholder. Now in Photoshop, so I'm going to put this on the left side. In Photoshop, it needs to be set up with the masking, with the image that you want to mask into above. Alright, now if I'm going from here into here, I don't really need to make a mask, okay? Because it's already set to the correct proportion, because now I can drop it down and you can see this is now to that size. Alright, if I decide that I want to simply design inside here, then I do need to create a mask, right? So I'm going to pull this image in, and you can see it's much larger. I'm going to hit Command T and then shrink it down, and I'm going to have this one place in the middle. Alright, so once I have it where I want that to be, I make sure my layer is right above the image that I want to mask it into. Alright, then I'm going to right click and then go to Create Clipping Mask. And now you can see that sits inside the actual mask itself. Alright, it's inside that mask. So it's up to you which way you want to actually set up your mockup. That's either way is going to give you the exact same result. Okay, so even if I was to move this up and I shrunk this down a little bit, I'll end up having basically the exact same design. Okay, what I want to see, what are the images you're choosing? Making sure that these 3 images are kind of telling the same story, looking like the same type of image with the saturation, the color, the vibe, the message, all of that. The second part is, how are you bringing the text into the design itself? Can the text be easily read against that image? All right, so those are really the 2 things that I'm looking for out of this part of the assignment. All right, you have to replace your logo up here. So to do that, you would end up drawing a circle. All right, and then by having this circle sitting in here, you create a mask. Right, so then you make the size of the circle to be the size of the logo in here. Alright, and now you can use that circle to drop your mask in. We can remove all of this here if we want. So let's say the easiest way for that is I'm going to make a copy of this. I'm going to select all of this part and then select the inverse and hit delete. So then I can move this down. So now my new top part, oops, when I crop this, is going to be the top of here, and I'm going to ignore all of this. Alright? What you can do, hit C. Oh, why did I do this? Boom. And then clear. There we go. Now I can pull this up to here. Or, actually, I'm going to keep it here. And then I can drop it right to the top of this. And then hit return. So this way I have all of that. If I want to remove the bottom part of all this, I'm going to use my marquee selection tool. I'm going to make the background is white. Yep. Make sure the background is white. I'm going to go to this layer here. I'm even going to get rid of messages. mouse is going crazy. And edit, fill, foreground color. And now I have just these images here. All right. Now, once you have all of this, make sure you save it. If you also want to get rid of the border around the logo, you can do that as well. We'll just draw a little rectangle over this, go to edit, fill, and get rid of that. You do not need to replace any of this text if you don't want to. All right. If this was the only thing that we were going to be doing, then fine. But it's you're going to end up taking this to another level of putting it into the laptop or some sort of image that is going to have this in a scene you're basically creating. All right. All right. So now what we can do now is I'm gonna get rid of this. Get rid of this. And then the image that I used was this one here. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to separate these out so I can have the two images here. Now, all of this you want to flatten. All right. Because if I just try and drag this as layers, it's going to be a pain. Okay. So I'm going to go down to here to flatten image. Hit OK. And now I can drag right into here. All right. Now, in here, we hit Command T. And then if I hold my Command key, you can see that my arrow to enlarge is going to turn white. That's going to allow me to stretch this image to the corners of the screen of the laptop. All right. And then it distorts it, it puts it into the actual screen, and then the lifestyle image for your social media is complete. Okay, so that's the steps to get the social media part into the lifestyle image. All right, the next one is to put in the postcard design into a lifestyle photo. All right, so we have our image here that we want to put this in, and what we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to drag from our Illustrator file. So we have this here. You want to get rid of your bleeds in here. You can also, if you prefer, you can open up this whole design in Photoshop. And that's another way too. Alright, bring that down. I'm using the white arrow because if I use the black arrow, all that's going to do is shrink the mask that I have on the postcard. Alright, so now I'm going to select the text and the postcard, and then I'm going to drag into this file here. I'm going to increase the size a bit. Then I'm going to right click and then go to convert to smart object. Where are you? Right here, about halfway down. Now, once I do that, I can hit Command T again. I can rotate. I can shrink it down slightly. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to put this in the middle here, and I can pull and tweak the angles of the postcard. Alright. Now we need to get the thumbs over this. Alright? So I'm going to make a copy of the background. And I'm going to bring that in front of our image. Now I need to isolate just the thumbs and delete everything else. So I'm going to go to my pen tool, I'm going to go to my paths, and I'm going to create a new path. So then zoom in, and then trace around the thumb. And you should be having a path sitting here, creating, and you want to make sure that you're drawing a path up here and not drawing a shape. And then once you're beyond, close it. If you need to make changes, you can add points just like in Illustrator. You can add and subtract points. If you hold your left hand on the keyboard, you can change from your pen tool into the arrow, so you can make changes on the fly. Alright, and then once we get that all set, we now have our thumbs completely traced. Now if I hold Option Command, you can see my hand turns into that, it has like a little box that shows up next to it. Now if I click on this icon, it makes a selection around those thumbs. Now if I just hit delete, it's going to delete the actual thumbs that we want to keep. So what we want to do is we want to hit Command-Shift-I to select the inverse. So now if I zoom out, you can see everything else is selected. Now when I hit delete, I have my thumb sitting there. Hit Command-D to deselect. And then what you can do is, since there's some shadowing in here, we can, if the background is white, we can play around with the blending option. So in here, I want to hit multiply, and then you can see a little bit of that shadow comes through. And then this part of the assignment is done. Okay? So hopefully that helps. One thing, just in case, so if when you go to create a path, and then you have your pen tool, there are the two options, right? So you want to make sure that you're creating a path. If you're creating a shape, it's not the end of the world, because as you are creating the shape, it's going to create another layer for you, right? So let me just very quickly and just draw. So what you see is I'm actually creating a shape out of this. It's kind of hidden from that. All right, so you can see that I'm actually creating the shape here. So even though that you are creating this shape, you can still see it's maintaining that path. All right, it's a little frustrating because you end up not being able to see, depending on how you are drawing or tracing rather, the thumb, you may end up losing some of the ability to see where you're tracing, right? So that's the only difference. But if by accident you forget to change this to path, it's not the worst, because you can still go here and make a selection, but you can also make a selection here and here. All right. But the problem is they're going to be on two separate layers. It's not going to be one. So see how this is set up this way? So you end up having to make a selection and then make a selection, and then you can go ahead, but then you're going to have to get rid of those. Okay? So hopefully this helps getting to this point. If there are questions, of course I will answer whatever you have in class. But this should be something that is easy to reference for those of you that were struggling a little bit. All right, good luck.